Great powers lied about Africa and now they're exposed. The past of Africa is extensive, with various cultures, civilizations, and struggles experienced by its people. Colonizing countries have destroyed Africa's past with lies and falsehoods by utilizing its resources, compelling the indigenous people to work under them, and obliterating their heritage. African nations were colonized primarily by European countries referred to as the colonial powers. The repercussions of these incorrect statements and misrepresentations are still impacting individuals today. In this video, we will share with you great powers lied about Africa, and now they're exposed. Knowledge of Black history and Africa's true story is crucial in comprehending colonization's profound effect. Knowing how they endure is significant. The truth can be discovered, and past mistakes that have shaped people's perception of Africa can be corrected by acknowledging that major powers spread lies. That the big powers lied about Africa is what this talk seeks to emphasize. Additional details have indicated that these falsehoods were inaccurate. In the paragraphs that ensue, we shall examine the historical backdrop of European colonization in Africa and the exploitative methods utilized. In addition, we will explore how African culture and heritage have been suppressed. Starting here will be beneficial in uncovering the reasons for important forces. We will also discuss the newest revelations and disclosures that have exposed these accounts as untrue. Secret documents being released and records from the colonial era being declassified have resulted in a changed history for Africa. Additionally, African leaders and activists have exposed the great powers for telling even larger lies, those of African diasporic descent. We will explore different cases of these misleading statements and false assertions. Depicting Africans as savages or primitives through racialized imagery has helped to promote harmful stories about Africa. Theft of natural resources and exploitative trade deals have resulted in economic exploitation, slowing down Africa's development. Moreover, many African nations have remained unstable due to the political manipulation methods like divide and conquer and the oppression of independence movements. These lies have considerable effects and meanings. Their identity, self-esteem, and ability to grow as African countries have been impacted for a long time by these events' long-lasting effects. The fake stories, which come to geopolitics, have changed international relations and kept neo-colonial practices going. Halting these lies requires spreading the truth and empowering people. Prioritizing African opinions and viewpoints with accurate education and research can lead to successful outcomes. Promoting understanding through cultural exchange. Many negative effects on both the African region and its inhabitants have resulted from the false statements made by major global players about Africa. Knowing the truth about Black history gives us hope, as recent news stories and increased awareness highlight its importance. These errors are fixable. Supporting inclusion and being truthful can have a positive impact on promoting fairness and knowledge worldwide. The struggle for Africa began among Europe's powerful nations after the 19th century and the commencement of the 20th century. The scramble for Africa occurred because of this. They hoped to leverage the ample riches and widen their empires. Africa saw the establishment of colonies by European nations like Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, and Portugal during this time of colonization. The powerhouses took advantage of Africa's minerals, wood, and agricultural goods. Making money was their sole motive behind doing this. After taking land by force, the people in Africa were often compelled to work and subjected to exploitation in other ways. The great powers maintained their power by also exerting political and social control besides exploiting the economy. They adopted their system for operating things. They frequently utilized pre-existing racial and regional disparities to establish subordinate governments that served their interest. By dismantling local institutions and suppressing independence efforts, they guaranteed their dominance over the territory. Also changed and erased were some aspects of Africa's cultural history. European languages and Christianity replaced indigenous languages, customs, and faiths. The accomplishments and rich history of African cultures were given little attention or disregarded entirely. It was permissible for African folks to be ruled over because this reinforced racial stereotypes. A narrative was created by the influential portraying Africa as a place that needed civilization and aid from Europe. The narration did not just assist them in elucidating their endeavors to colonize Africa, but it also maintained an inaccurate perspective of Africa and its populace. Leaking confidential data has allowed people to access hidden historical manuscripts that uncover what colonial control was actually like in Africa. This marks the initial occurrence. African countries and their people suffered from extensive violence, exploitation, and systemic oppression as evidenced by these papers. The big powers reveal how they employ extensively planned tactics to preserve their supremacy and generate the highest revenue achievable. Furthermore, the declassifying of records from the colonial era has yielded more data on how colonial rulers operated. Often these records exhibit endeavors to conceal the opinions of indigenous people, delete their cultural past, and reshape politics to serve European interests. By showing how complicated colonial power structures were, these reveal the extent to which big countries went to maintain their dominant position. For centuries now, these specific reveals and exposures have been dismantling the misconceptions that have been spread about Africa. Their aid permits us to grasp Africa's past with greater subtlety and accuracy. African people's strength, agency, and contributions are illuminated by them. By questioning stereotypes that diminish humanity, they raise awareness of the lingering impact of colonialism. It made it possible to reconsider Africa's position in world history. Some of the world's most powerful countries have spread lies about Africa using racial stereotypes, economic exploitation, and political trickery. These fabrications have added to the unfavorable view of Africa globally. Africa's population was controlled by utilizing racial stereotypes as a pretext. Savage or primitive Africans were portrayed. The false belief that they were inferior and required Europe's assistance was promoted by this. The presentation of African people and groups are dehumanized in this portrayal and makes them feel less important while having smaller control. The great powers took advantage of Africa's resources for their economies through unfair trade deals. The natural wealth was taken by them too. Africa's valuable resources were obtained unfairly by utilizing unjust trade practices. The economic growth of the continent was affected negatively by this. Africa's perceived poverty and inability to care for itself resulted from such mistreatment. One thing was certain: Europe had to be in charge. In summary, the untruths spread by powerful nations concerning Africa have caused extensive outcomes that have altered societal viewpoints about the continent. These lies have contributed to the ongoing abuse. Recent news stories and discoveries are challenging the validity of these false tales. The portrayal of Africa's history and the bravery of its populace are evident. Spreading the truth and empowering African opinions can correct historical mistakes and bring back pride. Making Black history more inclusive is within our reach. Stopping these lies can aid us in creating a more equitable and righteous world. The remarkable achievements in history of Africa are recognized and honored. So if you find this video interesting, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.